large crowd of interested people here. I have a feeling this is all due to our Hathaway presentation coming up here in a minute. But we usually start off, I'm calling the meeting to order. And if you would all please rise and join me in a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence for our troops in harm's way. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Prior to this meeting, we had an executive session meeting, which recessed. So we will adjourn back or revisit that meeting at the end. So we will seal the executive session minutes at the end as well. No votes were taken. Please let the record reflect that everybody's present tonight. In case of emergency, which we don't expect, we have 2 doors here and a door back here, and we meet over at the school administration building. Just a couple of announcements for me. January 23rd, we had the joint town council school committee meeting, which kicked off the budget season. We'll be seeing the first round of the upcoming year's budget tonight. On January 30th, town council members, school committee members, a lot of committee members underwent a state ethics training. And if you weren't able to join us on that meeting, it's also available online. And then we got the recognition from the, it's heavy, from the Rhode Island Interlocal Trust that the Portsmouth School Department has been a 30-year member, which means we basically paid them money for 30 years. I don't know what else this does, but thank you for that recognition, I guess. But now we have an even more important recognition, which is the highlight of the evening. So I would like to turn it over to Dr. Kenworthy.
Thank you, Dr. Copeland. So this evening, we wanted to recognize, and I think she is an individual who doesn't usually like to be in the spotlight here, but Mrs. Donna Valente, who is a music teacher at Portsmouth Middle School. So back in late January, she, this is where we talk all the time about teachers going above and beyond, but this was certainly one of those days. She did save a student from choking in the cafeteria during lunch duty. So I know Mr. Arruda and Ms. Jonkis, the nurse from the middle school, are here. I don't know if you want to say a few words and call up Ms. Valente. Oh, and do we have, we have the student with us?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to take a moment of recognition for Ms. Valente, since she quite obviously has saved me from not being here. I'm not great with social situations. And without her, I wouldn't be here. So I want to give her these flowers, and I hope that she takes them up in her heart. And thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Valente. So we do have a little something here for you as well from the school committee, and I think it goes without saying that this was just an incredible act. So thank you.
Okay, now that there's no longer a dry eye in the house. Can we move on to subcommittee updates, please? Capital planning, Ms. Blank.
Today, February 15th, we had
This is from January 19th, your capital subcommittee.
sorry, a lot of committees. I don't have those notes. Do you have them, Dr. Kimber?
I will refresh your memory. There are two items on the business agenda later that we discussed at that meeting. The first was the emergency safety capital request, right, which we've been talking about for a while, is up for final approval tonight. And then the emergency repair to the PHS septic pump system.
Thank you. Dr. Kenworthy, could you continue with District Safety Committee, please?
Yes, so we had a district safety committee meeting on January 25th. That includes representatives from the school, town side, police, fire. So we regularly check in on a lot of safety related items. We do meet in executive session, as many of those conversations fall under that privilege. But again, one of those items that is on the agenda for tonight is an emergency capital request related to safety upgrades. So we'll be talking about that in the business portion of the agenda.
Great, thank you very much. I'm sorry, Mr. Ferber, Finance Subcommittee?
The Finance Committee met on the 31st of January and to discuss the preliminary projections for our budget for the next fiscal year. And there weren't a lot of highlights. There were mostly lowlights because we're facing a state aid reduction of 275,000 and fewer Little Compton transfers than we expected. And the group home, essentially Boys Town, we're down 12 students, I think, from what we would have expected. So we've got a lot of reductions in the normal anticipation that we might have, but that's going to be discussed later in the substance of the budget presentation.
Thank you. Ms. McDade, Special Education Local Advisory Council.
So there have been.
You're out, you're muted.
Thank you. There have been 3 CLAC meetings since the beginning of the year. The first was a meet and greet in September. The second was in December and was had to do with getting IEPs in the CTE program and coincided with the CTE open house. And then the third meeting was the one held in January. There was a guest speaker from CCRI to help students understand how to apply and access student services and what programs look like. Our next scheduled meeting is March 9th, and that will be about supporting the social emotional needs of elementary age students. And we'll meet at Hathaway Elementary. We're also accepting nominations for our end of the year awards ceremony, which is always a highlight. In addition to that, we're really taking a look at how to make our CLAC meetings better attended and more active within the schools. So we encourage any parents who are involved in the special ed process to please speak up and let us know what would be most helpful to you and what you'd like to see. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Health and Wellness, Ms. Kelly.
The Health and Wellness Subcommittee met last Thursday, February 9th. We received updates from the Rhode Island Healthy Schools Coalition, the Prevention Coalition, and the district schools. There has been a lot going on, but there's a focus on Heron Wellness Week, which is next month, and the activities that are going to be happening related to that. And our next meeting is going to be Thursday, April 27th.
Great,
Chair,
thank
while
you.
we're on that, I'll just mention, because I think it just came out, the date for the annual dodgeball tournament is March 8th. You'll be getting an email if you haven't already.
In fact, we just got that email, and if anybody wants to play dodgeball on a school committee team, we can use each other for target practice. Ms. McDade, turning back to you for both equity and policy, please.
So both of those subcommittees met on Monday, February 13th. In the equity subcommittee, we discussed the status of the school teams at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. And we started reviewing policies that are already in place for the school district that have to do with equity issues. There's quite a lot of material. So we talked about the first one, which is the anti-discrimination policy, and had a really good discussion around that, and then decided that the rest of the policies we would take away, give everyone a chance to read them at their own pace, and then come back and discuss them next time. We didn't set a time for the next meeting, but that's what we'll do at our next meeting. And in policy, we get to that page. So again, we met Monday, February 13th, and we discussed three policies, all of which were forwarded to the general committee and will come on the agenda at our next meeting. These were policy GBEB, which is a code of conduct for staff-student relationships, policy GCF, which is a criminal records background check for employees policy, and IJOC, which is a criminal records background checks policy for volunteers. And then we talked about a few potential policies for future meetings, and that was our meeting.
Great, thank you. And then the final one is the District Building Committee, which met today, February 15th. And you'll see two items on the main agenda, which were forwarded by the committee for full committee approval. That's item H and item I and item J. And let me make sure there's not another one. And item K, and we'll discuss those more in detail when we get to the business section. Thank you. Any public comment? Don't think there was when I was up there. Nope, no public comment. Our high school liaisons with us tonight. Please come on forward. You got a full house. Normally they get to sit in the front row, but not tonight. So for all of you at Hathaway, when you get to the high school, you guys can join student council and then come to school committee meetings and give a report. Something to look forward to. Ladies?
Hello, I'm Elise Kerwin.
And I'm Patsy, and we're here to give some updates that's happening at the high school. It's the start of Q3 and it's a new semester, so that means our half year courses have switched over into new classes.
We had an assembly today and one tomorrow because we're starting composting at the school.
Last week we had our National Honor Society sell carnations for Valentine's Day.
Our winter sports are entering playoff season.
9th grade vision testing was yesterday, and do you want to do the other
Oh
one?
yeah, the 11th grade had a presentation today about the dangers of drunk driving.
And winter break is next week.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Superintendents, they have homework to do. I know they're going to do homework. Superintendent's update, Dr. Kenworthy.
Thank you. So first up, I have personnel updates that have occurred since our last meeting in January. So we have a few new hires and then some resignations, a few retirements here to announce, but new hires, we hired a new clerical position for a new clerical position at Portsmouth High School, Cynthia Mills. And then building substitute at Hathaway, Jensen Riley. Yes, that is a name that you may recognize. We have many connections to the extended Riley family still in our district, but we're happy to welcome Jensen on as well. Resignations, Andrea Sams, the school nurse assistant at Portsmouth High School, and then Brad Kelly, who is in a teacher assistant role for us, have moved on and taken other positions. I have a few resignations, and these will be effective as of the end of this school year. Jenna Morell, grade 1 teacher at Hathaway, Megan Donahue, who is a school counselor at the high school. I think this is quasi-retirement, but she's not quite there yet, but is moving on to do some other things for us. And then Brian Cotnor, a special educator at PMS. I'm going to skip, save a few to the end because those individuals are here tonight. Winter coaches, these are a few last minute paperwork items. Winter season's wrapping up, but we just haven't had a meeting for a while here. Sean Casey was the head coach for freshman boys basketball. Kate Mangano, assistant swim coach, and then Vince Tiroli, assistant swim coach. So tonight, I can announce, although this is a fall coaching position, like many sports, but particularly this one, there are a lot of year-round activities. So we wanted to make sure we get out in front of the process and hiring the right person. So I'm pleased to announce tonight, and I know he's here with us, if he wants to just stand and give a wave, Mr. Keith McDonald as the new head football coach at Portsmouth High School. So congratulations, Keith. Keith is no stranger to many of us in Portsmouth. He's been around quite a while, helping out in various sports programs and in the community. So we wish him the best of luck. And last, this evening, I am announcing officially the retirement of Mr. Joao Arruda, so ending 40 years in education, so.
I know we'll
I
have
was
more
gonna say, I think there'll be
recognitions
more,
and things to
I
come,
guess,
but
of that,
we'll start it now.
Okay, so moving on to a few district updates. As our student representatives mentioned, we are heading into winter break next week. All schools in the administration building will be closed on Monday, February 20th for the President's Day holiday. On Tuesday, February 21st, we're just trying to, and the police are fine with making this as public as possible. Schools will open back up. However, the main building of Portsmouth High School will be closed on that day. The police department does have it reserved for an all-day training. So if anybody notices a heavy police presence at Portsmouth High School that day, schools are not in session anyway, but it's part of the training that they will be doing. And then we will welcome all students back on Monday, February 27th. Winter sports season is wrapping up. So now that Mr. Corey is fully integrated on board, I've asked them to prepare, regular end of season updates. That was a regular practice we've been doing. So as the winter sports season continues to wrap up, he will be with us at one of our next few meetings to do that. I know I can announce over the weekend, if you did not see it, both our PMS girls and boys basketball teams won the state championship. So. Will be another formal recognition that we'll be doing at that winter sports wrap up. So with the announcement of Mr. Arruda's much deserved retirement this evening, I can officially announce that tomorrow we will be posting 2 principal positions. So we do need to get out in front of these. Stick around to the end of the year, Mr. Arruda, but unfortunately, we do have to start the process here. So the PMS principal and the PHS principal positions will be posted. I do want to take this opportunity again to recognize Mrs. Cohen-Claire will remain in that position for the end of the year as the interim principal, and she's fully committed to that. She is so looking forward to moving back to her position as director of college and career readiness, which she was enjoying before I interrupted her life back in December. So those processes will start officially tomorrow, just so everyone knows, and I will be back with future updates as we work our way through those processes. Lastly, I wanted to take the opportunity to recognize our dedicated school counselors throughout the district. Last week was officially School Counselor Recognition Week. And it's a time that we set aside to recognize the important role that these individuals play in the academic, social, and emotional support of students. So many of us in this room recall that position as guidance counselor back when we went to school. But today, the term school counselor embodies much more than that. And we are fortunate to have hardworking, dedicated individuals in those positions in the district. I think it's up, right? So I was pleased to see that during School Counselor Week, the Rhode Island Department of Education actually recognized our work here in Portsmouth. Our counselors have been working, again, before I, interrupted her life in December, Mrs. Cohen-Claire, on, although I know she's still heavily involved with this, comprehensive professional development series for the school counselor role, and making sure those individuals are up to date with all of the changes. So we did get some recognition there for their involvement. So thank you again to those individuals. So unless there are any questions, that is the end of my district updates.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So just to repeat, police presence at the high school on the 21st is an exercise. And now moving on to presentations and Hathaway highlights. Are you introducing them, Dr. Viveros, or?
Yeah, sure. So Mrs. Little is here today, along with some of her staff members, and it looks like several of her students to highlight all of the successes at Hathaway. Mrs. Little.
Thank you. All right, thank you. So first of all, thank you for allowing us this opportunity to highlight our Hathaway community. We have chosen to highlight the unified arts that are happening in our schools. So that's the route that we went. So thank you everyone for being here. So I'll just do a little beginning and then I'm going to turn it over. So 'twas the night of the meeting and all through the place, there is joy and excitement on everyone's face. The students and teachers have taken such care to share about Hathaway, for they love it there. So up in a minute, we'll share all we can, and soon you too will be a Hathaway fan, as if you weren't already, but anyway. Now, what to your wondering eyes should appear, but some teachers and students thankful to be here. On music, on art, and health and PE, our library classes and events filled with glee. We'll share what we learn and then share a song. We promise we won't be very long. I don't know. I don't know. You have to stay until the end, I guess. So anyway, so up first, so the first slide is going to be our PE, and Mrs. Aruda is going to come on up with Charlie Piliotis and Ella Sanders. Come on up.
Hi, I'm Allison Aruda. I'm the PE teacher at Hathaway, and Charlie and Ella are going to demonstrate a few skills that we learned a few weeks ago during our ball handling unit. Ella is going to help me with what I've taught K and 1, and you can see the difference, and Charlie's going to try to do a little more advanced skills, and they want me to do it with them, so I'm going to we're going to do that, and then they're going to get up and say a little bit about PE. Of course, we have to have some music. Let's see. Ready? You want to go first? And here's Charlie.
What I love about PE is you get to use all your energy in something fun. From playing soccer to floor hockey to dodgeball, to many other things. My favorite part about PE is probably hanging out with my friends, playing soccer or playing floor hockey. Soccer is probably my favorite thing we do in PE. Also, I have learned from PE is how to stay healthy, athletic, and how to get as much exercise as possible. At least 20 minutes a day. Mrs. Aruda helps us strengthen our athletic ability. She is kind, smart, and more. I've learned so much since kindergarten. I will miss PE since I am going to 5th grade next year.
Yay.
When I go to middle school, I'm going to miss the fun games we play in PE, such as basketball, floor hockey, volleyball, and the obstacle course. When it's warm outside, we play soccer, scissor ball, and kickball. My favorite activity in PE is the obstacle course because it's all of my favorite things mashed together. Gymnastics, basketball, bowling, etc. Mrs. Aruda makes it a little bit different every year, which makes it even more fun. Those are some of the many different reasons I'm going to miss PE with Mrs. Aruda when I go to the middle school.
Thank you.
I thought Mrs. Aruda was going to invite you to come out and do those tricks with her. I don't need, I'm not going to do that. All right, so up next we have our health classes, and we have Nurse Chrissy and Mr. Souza, and we have Andrew Habershaw, who's going to talk to us about that.
Hi, I'm the nurse at the school, but I also teach health class as well. So, but Mark teaches other classes while I teach the other 2 classes.
My name is Andrew. I'm in 3rd grade at Hathaway Elementary School. This year in health, we have been learning all about the skeletal system, the digestive system, germs, and hygiene. My favorite fact about the skeletal system is that the smallest bone in your body are in your ear. I love my health class.
We did not cheat, but that is Nurse Chrissy's son, in case you didn't know. But anyway. All right, next up is music. We have Mrs. Angonetti, and she has with her Sam Pape, Kinsley Garcia, and Libby Correa. Wow.
Last year you got to hear the chorus. So it featured notes just in our left hand. We started to move on to notes in the right hand. So these students have worked very hard these last 2 weeks to put together a song using the range of their instrument.
Oh, what? Would you like to have them facing the audience so they could be on the camera? Because we can hear them. Watch this chord. Watch the chord. Yep, there you go. There you go. That way you'll be on camera. Okay, there you go. Now we see you.
And Kinsley wants to play a solo. Did not prepare anything to say because we let the music speak for itself. But we're going to start talking about to join the band unit. So good thing Mrs. Valente is here because then we'll reflect on the recorder and see what path they want to take when they get to 5th grade music.
All right, so up next we have a library, and Mrs. Dyer is here, and we have Reagan Brown with us this evening for library.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mrs. Dyer. I'm going to introduce Reagan, who's going to talk about our library program.
Hi, I'm Reagan Brown. I'm going to talk to you today about library classes. Libraries where we borrow books and learn about many different things in different grades. For example, in 4th grade, we learned about Gino Bartali, who was a professional cyclist who won the Tour de France. Also, he helped rescue Jewish people during World War II. We learned all this from the book Bartali's Bicycle, which is a Rhode Island Children's Book Award nominee. During library class, we have a special time where you get to borrow books. Yesterday, I borrowed a book from the series Choose Your Own Adventure. I really like it so far. If you can't find a book, you can ask Miss Dyer for assistance. When I couldn't find the book I was looking for, yesterday, Miss Dyer told me where to look. One of my favorite things to look for is graphic novels. Miss Dyer told me those are the most popular books to borrow. Borrowing books is my favorite part of library. We also learn about technology in library class. For example, in December, we celebrate Hour of Code. This year in fourth grade, we were making games about helping the environment in Scratch. The younger grades learned about coding using Hour of Code activities. Library is not just used for classes. Sometimes classes borrow books for classroom research. There are books about history, people, animals, and more. There are also fourth grade state research projects displayed in the library. There's so much to learn about in library class. This is why I love library class.
Thank you. I would like to request that we enroll her as the spokesperson for the school department when it comes to the town council and budget season. Okay.
We'll work on that with her, 100%. All right, and last but not least, we have art with Mrs. Warshauer, and we have Jaslyn Wells, Olivia Moody, and Weston David.
So I have 3 students here that are going to show you their clay creations. This is a big project we do every year. Last year, it was snowmen. This year, it's polar bears. And I have 3 students that are going to show you their work. So I'm thinking that maybe they could just go around because they're very, very detailed, and that's what I want you to see. I'm gonna let Jazzy go first. Okay, and I wanted them to tell you about what they want you to see in their project. What's your favorite part?
My favorite part about my project is how I made the baby polar bear. The mama will keep the baby polar bear safe from the fire that I made.
And then so you can walk around. She's gonna walk around, you could just like walk around. Yep, yep. And then this way you can see all the little details. This is Model Magic. So it's been a wonderful product to work with because you don't have to fire it, but it will pretty much stay true to form. And as long as they take it home carefully. Okay, I'm gonna let Weston go next. Okay, Weston, you can tell everybody what you want them to notice about your project.
My favorite part about my project is the fish.
What about we were talking?
And the blanket so it can stay warm in the Arctic.
So Olivia's got a lot going on in hers. So you're gonna tell everybody about what, I mean, it's amazing that every single polar bear that has been created has been completely different. At the end of this project, which I just have 5 more classes to do, we will end up with 450 polar bears. And I've only lost 1 so far. So Olivia.
My favorite part about art is the creativity in it, and you get to design whatever you want.
Okay. What I particularly like, if you notice when you're walking around, you have to show them the little rainbow at the end.
How long does it take to make the polar bears?
It's been 2 weeks. The first week is construction of the body. And then the following week, we actually put it together. They are only offered 3 colors, red, blue, and yellow. So if they want to make different colors or scarves or whatever, they have to make those colors themselves. So it's a really good way for them to learn more about color theory. And before I end, I just wanted to show you the last project or the project we actually just finished today. So in the beginning of the year, I get all my supplies in, and then I just don't have the heart to throw out little pieces of crayon and stuff. So we made a mural. I don't know why I can't see the finished one, but anyways, if you notice, every little tiny part of it is glued down with crayons and art supplies that have been left over. And it's a project that most kids have been helping out with. So it's been a fun project. And today we actually finished it.
I'm going to ask my art friends to help me with something in a minute, but if you can click to the next slide, just a couple of things about our unified arts. You know, I titled it Infinity and Beyond. We had said in the classroom and beyond, but it really is true that our unified arts bring this to the building, these things to the building. There's a big part of connecting with the Portsmouth community and beyond. So we have Reading Week, which is coming up soon in March. We might be calling on you to be a guest reader. Some of you have been. We do the chorus and sings at lots of places, at the Hullabaloo, at the State House, at the Bruins game. Most recently they do the Gulls. When we have our Springabaloo, which is a fundraiser for Hathaway, they always donate some services. So you can bid on librarian for the day or maybe PE teacher for the day. I don't know if have you done that? Okay, yeah. All right, so extra PE with friends, jewelry making. We do lots of student showcases, student recognition, whether it's our chorus or our art. I didn't want that to go unnoticed. And I think there's one more slide, Heather. We do have an Arts for Life Day, and we try to engage students with the artists and the guests in the building. We have a field day that PE and Health put on, and they've done a lot of grant writing and brought a lot of things, as you can see on there, to our schools. So I just wanted to recognize what they do beyond in their classrooms. And we wanted to leave you with a token of something from Hathaway. So we, Mrs. Borschauer has so kindly taken some art pieces, and she framed them for us. So you're each going to get a Hathaway piece of art. So you, my friends, you're going to help us give these to every single person around there gets one. Okay. So I'll hand them to you. Okay. Or maybe Mrs. Borschauer, can you help? Oh yeah, other people can help too. Yeah. Here. And so go ahead. You'll take one. Yeah, you can all help. You give one to one person on the committee. Okay. Right. So give it to someone who doesn't have one, okay? And then I think we should be good. You got it? Is there any more? There might be a couple more. Give them to anyone who doesn't have one yet. Raise your hand if you don't have one yet. Oh, see who doesn't have one. Does everyone have one? And they don't have one. Does everyone have one? We have one for everyone. Even, yes, we have one for Heather. Anyone else? One over here, over here. Be careful of the cord. Sorry. Anyone else? Well, you took that. Here. I think that's it. Is that it? Oh, it's okay. So I want to thank everyone who came tonight, our students and our teachers. We're going to make like the high school people. You ready? Now hear us exclaim. Now hear us exclaim as we slip out of sight. Thank you to all, and to all a good night. Good night.
We really appreciate the parents coming along and helping out with this too. That was wonderful.
Great job, kids.
Great job, kids. Bye, guys. Thank you. Thank you. It gets a lot more boring after this. We're just waiting a moment for everybody to have a moment. Good night, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, teachers. Thank you so much. That was lovely. I think Mrs. Little ups the game every single year. I don't know. Mrs. Little, I do have one. Mrs. Little, I do have one question for you. How's the outdoor classroom coming along? Could you come up to the podium while we're waiting for people to kind of clear out?
So the outdoor classroom is coming along. We got some new benches for out there and it looks beautiful. We just haven't been able to put in everything around it yet because of the weather.
Yeah.
It was our hope to get it done right before the start of school, but there was a lot going on. So, my friend, Mr. Hool, knows every time I meet with him, I say, when are we going to get the outdoor classroom stuff? And he always says it's on my radar. I say, I know. So we're going to do that as soon as the warmer weather comes, and then we'll have a lot more out there and we'll be able to use it a lot more. So
Great,
it's coming along perfectly. Beautiful view, as you know. So, and it's open to everybody who wants to use it.
Very excited.
Community garden at the school has been really great because the students are involved with the planting and
They are. They are involved, and we have a really great group of parents who keep that alive. They do the taco beds and it's just amazing. It's really run by the parents in the community. So thank you. So, yeah.
And we're going to highlight the area at our next health and wellness meeting as well.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. All right. Wonderful presentation. Can I have a motion, please, for the approval of school committee minutes?
Second.
Okay, this is for the approval of school committee minutes, December 13th and December 13th executive session. All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous, 7-0. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda,
So moved.
please?
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous, 7-0. We need to say anything on that, Dr. Kenworthy? No, we're good. All right. Can I have a motion to discuss the mid-year update on superintendent goals?
So moved. Second.
Dr. Kenworthy?
Thank you. So we do like to set some time aside this time of year to check back in on the goals that we worked, very hard on to set for this school year. They're labeled superintendent goals, but as they connect back to our strategic plan, and they're written in a way that we can connect to every school, every department in the district and the work that they do. So we have 3 goals for this year. The first is around our high quality curriculum materials in this year that is focused on ELA and math. Science will be the next subject area, but that will be rolling out in the next few years. And just making sure that teachers have everything that they need and that those curriculums are being fully implemented. I know Mrs. McDade has been joining us on our learning walks this year. We've been focusing hitting that specifically on our ELA curriculum as we've been visiting each school. So the other part of that is just linking everything to our STAR assessments that we give 3 times throughout the school year as our benchmarking measure. And then, of course, leading into our state assessments in the spring. And so by the spring, we will have compiled and we will add to that data that we started to pull together last year of previous year's data, and then really linking back to that. One of the things we talked about at the start of the year was the 2019 data, because that would have been the last data before the pandemic. So that's where we want to ensure, that's our main goal of making sure that we are back there, and where we are not, building plans in place in those areas. So quick summary of that one. Everything on that goal is up to date, in progress. By the end of the year, you'll have a written update with references to all of this. But right now, all of this is just in progress. So if there are no questions on that, I can move on to the next one. So next one, we actually got a comprehensive update on from Mrs. Shea at the last meeting. So this is one that we set around our, social emotional side and student services. And so Mrs. Shea is leading a lot of the efforts here on analyzing, and we have different data collection processes in place through either surveys or interviews, observations of classes. Again, by the end of the school year, I know she will have a comprehensive plan compiling all of that with recommendations for where we need to go in future years. Okay, and the last one is related to ensuring, again, linked to our district strategic plan, that we have those safe and modern facilities for students and teachers to support teaching and learning. So a lot of this is tied into our bond projects. So we get, there are regular updates and agenda items, each meeting tied into that. We have the district building committee that's meeting regularly. And then the last one around ensuring that we also included some safety and security enhancements. We've already mentioned is actually on the agenda for later tonight. So that is also in progress and moving along so that we can start to see the benefits of that in our district. So again, just a quick update, in ensuring that none of this has been forgotten and everything is well underway and linked to our schools. And we will continue to provide updates throughout the year.
Great, thank you so much. This is a process that we decided to implement this year because we didn't want to get to the end of the year and say, oh yeah. So are there any questions on any of those? No, is there any area that you're worried about not being able to, anything that the school committee can help with or anything that we can?
That's a,
I mean, I
you sure you want me to answer that?
But
no, I mean, I think again,
more hours in the day. I mean, I don't know.
yeah, the building facility now, the safety improvements, are underway. I know we've got a lot of eyes on the social, emotional, and student services benchmark. So, I think the first one is always, the tricky one because cohorts of students change each year, and we'll set those goals of where we want to be in state assessment. But sometimes we don't always get there. So,
and your goals transfer down to the principal goals, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Good. All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Moving on, discussion of the first draft of the FY 2024 operating budget. We need a motion, please.
Second.
All right. All in favor? Unanimous, 7-0.
All right. So this has been much anticipated and is a culmination of a lot of hard work on the part of many in our district, and definitely all of our school and district leaders. But tonight, I and Mr. Dior will be presenting to you the first draft of our FY24 operating budget for next year. So the timeline again, we have had this regular process in place for a number of years. So we will work through 3 drafts starting tonight and then through our next few meetings. By our March 14th meeting, you will need to vote on the final version of this budget, which we will then submit to the town. And in April, we will enter the town phase of this, and we will present to the town council and await their final approval. We will have official approvals of some other budgets that sit outside of our operating budget, like our technology equipment plan, gate and facilities, gate receipts, facilities rental, and our capital budget. I am going to suggest that we, just so you know, push off right now in this timeline. I'll have an updated one for you. The technology equipment plan, gate receipts, and facilities rentals, if we can just push those to March 14th as well, because there's still work that we're doing in all of those. Again, we're in a challenging budget season, as you know. So moving on with that. So the budget we're going to present to you this evening, and we've also worked with Finance Subcommittee on this, represents a 4.4% increase in expenditures. And right now, this budget would require a 6% increase in the town appropriation. So some of the reasons for that are main revenue expenditure drivers. And we've mentioned a few times already, right? We had an unanticipated decrease in state aid. You will see 2 numbers out there floating around about this number. So it is technically $275,000 on the state side, but in our budget year over year, the difference of the decrease would be that $257,000 number. So we just wanted to be upfront and recognize that. We had some money, some adjustments that were made at the last minute, and some money that came to us. So the year over year difference for us that we'll keep referring to is that 257 number. But again, an unanticipated $250,000 decrease to start things off. We are projecting level funding and revenue from out-of-district tuition. So this is another main revenue source for us. The two main drivers there would be Little Compton enrollment, which is down slightly. Our CTE enrollment, we are projecting to be up slightly. So we're anticipating those will balance one another off. We are also, if this budget goes through eventually as approved, with the increase in preschool tuition, just is tied to opening another preschool classroom. So that is going to be one addition that we are trying to put out there from the beginning of this process. And if for whatever reason that can't remain as we work our way through, then obviously that increased tuition revenue there would not come through. In addition to the unanticipated cut in state aid, one of our biggest challenges, as we know, has been just the current rate of inflation. And then, of course, we have contractual obligations, right? They're built into all of our contracts, and it's just one of the things that we have to make sure that we build our budget around. So right from the start in this budget, we knew there were a couple of personnel savings that we could recognize right from the start. So again, year over year, this budget would reflect a decrease of a part-time payroll clerk. So we had a retirement this year, and we've consolidated, and we'll be moving ahead not filling that role. And also the administrator at Portsmouth High School reflects, as you know, we had some last-minute resignations in the summer, right? And we made some adjustments. End of the day, we're down one administrator there. So the year over year difference there, we have not changed in the budget. So we will technically be down, from FY23 to FY24, one administrator at Portsmouth High School. And then this budget does include a reduction of 2 professional development days. We feel that we have a plan. We'll be presenting in coming meetings to, we're not just proposing getting rid of those days and oh well, right? We have a plan of some ways that we feel that we can compensate for that. So you'll be hearing more about that, but it would also allow us, some savings that we could count on right from the beginning of this process. Next slide. So some things again, this being the first draft, right? So as we work our way through, this draft right now does include the addition of 1 preschool teacher. That would be to open that additional classroom. The tuition increase is not the driver there. The driver is that, Mrs. Shea is running out of space to put preschool students as they qualify, right, at ages 3 and 4. And we've been talking about this for years. We've been trying to open this additional classroom. We know definitely from the start, due to special ed program needs, we are going to need 1 additional RBT over what we currently have, one way or another next year at Hathaway. Nursing assistants at all 4 schools. So these were positions that we brought on with COVID. They had been discussed for many years in this district, and up until this budget draft we're preparing for next year, we've been able to fund those through grants and other things, and we've run out of those revenue sources, just so you know. Right now, they're built into this budget, but as we continue to progress forward, if we have to make adjustments, again, we have nowhere else to go for those positions. One thing, this is not a huge driver one way or another in the budget, but I did want to make note. Again, this is the direction that most districts are moving in now. So we have to ensure we have an athletic trainer in place for all athletic events at Portsmouth High School. That's a requirement in this day and age. So we contract for those services already. Most districts and schools are moving toward making that position a district employee. The benefit for us is it gives us a lot more control and flexibility over employing that person. Again, if we don't kind of keep up with the competition, so to speak, then we're, like sometimes hard to fill nursing services and other things, we're going to be hard pressed to find somebody to fill that role for us. So what does this first draft right off the bat that we know of not include, just so you are aware? So this draft does not reflect, although we do think we will have for next year 4 additional interventionist positions that our schools are taking advantage of, and we're seeing the benefits of. So we have 1 each at each of our schools, and they are right now being paid through ESSER funding. And we do anticipate we will be able to have those positions back for next year. But then, as you know, that's going to be it, right? That ESSER funding runs out. So just again, and we will point this out various times throughout the budget process, and there are other positions like this. So they're not even reflected in our operating budget or anything that we're going to be talking about. As our district administrators and leaders were preparing their budgets, they put a lot of hard work and effort into it with their various teams, and they all made a strong case for these positions that I'm going to talk about in this next line. But right now, as we had to build this budget for our first draft, these positions are not in our budget. So a 1.0 special educator at Hathaway, increases to the FTEs for art and music at Melville, where they currently have part-time positions. An additional interventionist at the middle school and the high school was a key request. An additional clerical support staff member at the high school, an additional technician for our technology department, and all the increased technology that we have in the district today. And our district maintenance staff can make a very good argument for why they need an additional technician. So it's not that these are needs that we feel are not justified. Where we are with the budget, and I'm just letting you know they are not in there, anything that we're going to be talking about tonight. Also, in bringing on Mr. Corey, one of the things that we asked him to do was, he's an experienced, well-respected athletic director. As he started to take a look at our program, he has identified areas where we have imbalances, right, between male and female teams and the number of coaches or teams that have a certain number of students, student athletes have, small coaching staff, and he feels like they would need more, that kind of thing. He did a very comprehensive process for us, put together a list. We were able to accommodate some of those positions, but not all. So we just wanted to make note of that. Based on his recommendations, we were not able to accommodate what he feels like are some changes that we would have needed to make in our athletic department. So that's just kind of a summary and overview. Mr. Dioro is going to walk you through the details of the budget.
Okay, so the first slide is our draft revenue budget for next year. You can see right in the middle there, revenue from state sources, the reduction of $257,000. The funding formula is actually down 8%. That was really 16% before the one-time enrollment adjustment the governor proposed. We're getting more high-cost special ed funding next year, $193,000. But as mentioned earlier, ECYF closed 12 group home beds in Portsmouth, and so we're losing $197,000 year over year there. Little Compton tuitions are down 9%. We're projecting 78 students tuitioned in next year. I can remember back when that was about 120 students not that long ago. So we're down quite a number of students. So all in all, total revenue for the general fund right now, again, is up 4.4 to support the expenditures with a town appropriation of 6%. Go to the next slide.
Do you want questions as we go along or at
Yes,
the very
actually,
end?
you know what? That's great. We'll take them at each page.
So revenue questions. I think just to clarify, the reduction in Little Compton is due mainly to their population decline in students.
The number of
And then
students.
COVID stuff too. Other questions about revenue, Mr. Ferber?
When I gave my subcommittee report, I was gonna say 257,000, but the Daily News reported 275, and then.
Yeah.
So what is it, 257 or is it 275, or do we even know?
But no, we absolutely know. And it depends on what you're talking about. Those two numbers include different categories of aid. So the 275 includes, there's a small amount of homeless youth aid and also English language learner aid. That does not support general operations and it does not go to the general fund. It goes to a separate fund and it's restricted for that use. So it doesn't fall into this budgeting process. It's like, think of it as like Title I grant or something. We have to use it for a specific purpose. And then there's non-public school transportation offset, which is aid that doesn't actually get sent to the district, but is a credit on invoices if you're transporting students using statewide transportation to private schools, which we do not. So technically, it's aid we had last year, $17,000. We're not getting it this year, but again, it doesn't actually come to us in the form of cash and show up in our budget. It can be very confusing. All the schedules that come out all contain different mixes of different categories of.
But the state aid is still subject to revision. It's not.
Well, this is the governor's recommendation.
Right.
This is not what the General Assembly has passed. So as we know from last year, they passed something completely different than was recommended.
I just want to add, out of curiosity, the charter schools are getting collectively an increase of roughly 22 million. So I decided to look through the report cards of the district with regard to test scores and so on. And frankly, I think all of the charter schools were horrible. I mean, their test score results were terrible, including Blackstone Valley, which has previously had better test scores. But yet, I'm just venting because I know it has nothing to do with it. We can solve our problem, but it mystifies me as to why. And I also might make a note, there's no way to dissolve, there's no present way to dissolve a non-performing non-performing charter school. Charter schools, there's no way to dissolute a charter school.
Aren't their charters reviewed periodically?
They are technically this process
Yeah.
that ride, but I think in what
So you
Mr. is
choose
getting
not
at,
to.
I can maybe think of one or two schools in, all my time in education I know of that have had their charters revoked, or they're really, really, do something serious,
Okay.
yeah. But performance certainly isn't a measure that they're using there because, as Mr. Ferber said,
Right.
they're not outperforming.
I think Ms. Blank?
district schools.
It's great to see that we're increasing the preschool classrooms. That's been very much needed in this town for quite a while. Will they be full day preschools or will they be still half day?
I think Mrs. Shea just stepped out, but yeah, the same model we have now, the half day. Unless I assume that's based on IP needs in some cases though, right? So there could be some services, but yeah, the same model that we have now.
So hopefully actually looking at adding, I think it's on, is it?
Okay.
Adding a morning section of half day because that's where we're really finding that we're running out of spots and the 3-year-olds still need to nap in the afternoon. And then working for an itinerant model so that our providers could go out to community daycares and preschools and provide services in those settings so that we don't have to bring as many kids to us. So it gives us kind of a double win.
Has there been any consideration for full day preschool? Or, I don't know, parents that work?
It'd be wonderful. Not right now.
What's inhibiting that?
Well, if we have an integrated model and we ran one full day, then we can only meet the needs of 15 students. If we run the itinerant model with a morning section, we could meet the needs of 15 students in the morning and meet the needs of other students out in the community.
So physical space limitation?
Yes, that's definitely part of it.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
I would just like to hopefully point out that everybody has read the wonderful article by Jim McGaw in the Portsmouth Times. A lot of contribution here from our superintendent and finance director, looking at our Portsmouth schools being shortchanged on aid. And I think the resounding answer here is yes. When you look at the per student reimbursement rate, we rank as second to last at $1,600 per student. Whereas, and I'll just go with more equivalent districts, Middletown gets $4,000 per student. Where is East Greenwich gets $2,303. Barrington gets $3,197, right? So this is, I think, a much bigger problem, which we've tried to make our state legislators aware of. But the more voices from the community, the better. And there's two really good articles in here about tuition reimbursements and the craziness of the formula. So that's what I have to say about revenue. And I think we have an audience comment. Is this on revenue?
Thank you. Larry Fitzmaurice, 50 Kristen Court. I'm going to be straightforward and rather brutal about this. We should, meaning the school committee, should write a letter to our representatives and ask them why we're in this position. It's their job, right? Certainly the people in Barrington seem to have figured out how to do this. And other schools. But, you know, it is, I'm going to belabor the obvious. We're sending the taxpayers of this town in the general taxes and all the specific taxes, except for property taxes, are sending a lot of money to the state that is not coming back. Now, understand the politics in this state. It means that the funding formula is going to favor the ones with the most representation in the assembly. And that's actually the way it's figured out. But our representation is not zero. And there should be some bargaining chip here that our representatives and senators figure out. But the school committee, I think, needs to write a letter saying, why are we in this position? What is the situation in the assembly that results in this? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good point. It was made, it was the number one issue on our list of legislative concerns when we had the joint town council legislator meeting. And I think they're all aware of it, but I agree. And I think it is even, if you look at the cuts, it might even be an East Bay issue where we can have a joint letter. I think that should be something that should be on the agenda for our next meeting to see if we can get it signed by all. I mean, again, I'm not sure if it does any good, but we can at least try, you know, do what we can do.
I might say a lot more than just the island districts could participate in that letter, because I think the majority of school districts lost money in this new budget or this new state aid allocation.
I don't remember there being a majority, but.
But definitely, I think all of Aquidneck Islands, kind of basically from Barrington, you know, out of the equation on down. I think everybody lost.
But in any of it, our state legislators are well aware of the issue. I mean, I don't know if you were at the joint meeting that we had, but the subject was addressed, particularly by Mrs. Ujifusa. So
yeah,
do what we can.
Okay, moving on to expenditures, please.
Okay, next page, please. Here you go. So, as you know, we budget like expenditures sort of in groups. And the first one that we will, well, actually in total, if you look at this page, you'll see everything kind of rolled up. And we'll get into the detail. But the big drivers, really, as you can see, are compensation, salaries, employee benefits, professional and technical services, and other purchase services. If you want to flip the page, we can kind of get into the details, and I'll tell you what's driving those numbers.
Before we jump, can you just give me an example of what the line item of the professional and technical services is? What's an example of that?
In a few pages, I'll give you all the detail around that. Yeah. And so the first section is compensation. And the big drivers here obviously are what we call regular salaries, and that is raises and step movements of our existing employees, offset by retirements and any FTE changes. You can see we had a big increase in the salaries for substitutes of $125,000. Few meetings ago, we asked the school committee to increase across the board the daily rates for all all substitutes to remain competitive with the other communities in the East Bay. And then Dr. Kenworthy mentioned the reduction of those two PD days. You'll see them negative $110,000. Any questions on salaries before I move on? Okay, next page, please. So this is the district's benefits. We have very little control over these benefits. Most of them are either set by actuaries or set by the state as percentage of salaries. But the big drivers here, you can see that under healthcare, self-insured, right now, we're assuming no increase in premiums. Our utilization was looking very good, but after having attended a trust meeting, I think we're going to make an adjustment there and assume a 3% increase in our next draft version. So you'll see that go up. Yeah. And then the private pension payment, that's the town pension, where we have certain employees that are still grandfathered in that plan. The latest actuarial report increased our contribution for next year by $128,000. Any questions on benefits? Okay, next page.
Other than healthcare, are those numbers pretty firm?
They will move as we make adjustments to staff. Yeah, so everything will recalculate as we make staff adjustments. Okay, this next section is purchased professional and technical services of 14.6%. There's really two drivers here, one going down, one going up. Halfway down the page, you'll see a reduction of $47,175 in health service providers for students. So that's the athletic trainer. So we used to pay for that. We do pay for that now as a purchased service. We're proposing to reduce that to zero and actually add an FTE.
And how long is that contract still good for?
It's on a year-by-year basis.
But we could renew it at the same rate.
We could renew it if they're amenable to that, yes.
Have we talked to them about that at all?
I know this year's budget was a very large 20% increase over the prior year.
Yeah, and it's not so much the contract, again, it's the personnel and.
I know, I'm just wondering
Yeah,
what the actual
right.
numbers are. So I guess I would ask that we ask them for the next budget, what that would be. I think that would be a useful bit of information to know.
Yeah, I know our.
It's
current
going to cost more with
our
an athletic
trainer
trainer.
is waiting to see what happens here, and then there are half a dozen other openings that I know of in other districts.
Yeah, I'm sure if I'm sure the price would be higher, but we can ask the question.
So overall, budget wise, even though it's approximate 47K reduction here, in our budget, it is flat. It's an
If we take
increase.
them on, it's an increase. If we hire in as opposed to purchase a service. It's
Yeah,
more
we
money.
haven't settled anything out there. I mean, you can anticipate a benefit increase, right? Just not, again, that depends on.
Oh, because of the
On
benefits. But-
everything, yeah.
Okay,
But-
gotcha.
Yeah, but we haven't settled on.
You turned your mic off.
What would the increase on the budget be by hiring an in-house trainer versus the purchase service as it stands now?
So the salary would be about flat. The salary budgeted at $50,000 with a reduction of 47. The rest would depend on what type of benefits the person would elect. They would have access to healthcare, dental, retirement, that type of thing.
So what would be maxed out?
Maximum would be maybe 25,000.
So 75,000 versus 47,000.
These athletic trainers, typically physical therapists working for some of the services around the state, in our case, Pappas and Olympia, they're the same company. They're not paid very well and they don't get healthcare benefits. So to hire somebody and give them healthcare benefits is a big plus. Otherwise, they're looking for more money and benefits. And all of most of our fellow school districts are going that way.
Well, I think Dr. Kenworthy said our existing person will likely leave us for one of the other options that are being advertised right now.
We're saying the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there are other opportunities right now available that are Barrington's hiring, I know, and there are others.
Bristol Warren is
Bristol Warren.
doing the same thing we're doing with the request, so we would anticipate that would open.
Have we had any problem having an athletic trainer at events this year by purchasing the service?
I can't answer that question. We have had problems filling that role with a good quality person. I do know that.
We've had a lot of turnover in that role, but this year I know we've had somebody in it permanently this year, who I believe will be leaving us if we don't have this.
What if the trainer like has more to that full-time position than simply a trainer? Like that could
Right,
actually
so-
work on, like, the
Yeah,
children's
and that's a
sports.
given, like that's what I meant when we'd have more control over, we would build in some other things there. Sorry if I wasn't clear on that.
Two questions. First, 3 line items, the physician's, dentist, and medical claims provider. Can you help me understand what that is?
Sure, so,
Yep.
physicians is our school physician who fills prescriptions for the schools that they need for whatever it is that they need those for. We also have a school dentist who comes in and does dental exams, and then the medical claims provider is our Medicaid processor who processes our Medicaid claims and submits them on our behalf.
Okay, thank you. And then second question, clearly the largest driver is the contracted nursing services.
Yes, yep.
Where is this separate from where we saw the hired nurses that we have on the
So,
list? This
yeah,
is
so these,
separate, correct?
yeah, these are hired nurses, but these primarily are nurses that are hired one-to-one with students that have medical needs.
Okay,
It's just again, what Mrs. Shea knows right now, you know, if we were to open the school year, how many of those individuals we would need.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions before next page? Okay. Please. Purchased property services, so this is where you see your maintenance and repairs and facility type expenditures, relatively flat, 0.6%. We have added some, if you look at the maintenance lines, we have added some money. The buildings are tired, they need maintenance. We're trying to add a little additional money there. We're offsetting that by a reduction in the telephone line of $23,000. Number of things there driving that, savings with the new phone system we put in. We rationalized the number of cell phones that district employees had, and then we did go through a telecom audit that I did identify some ongoing savings as well. Any questions on purchased property services?
The question, on the increased maintenance needs, is this above and beyond what we're doing with the capital project?
Yes, so this is day-to-day maintenance where the capital projects are large, specific projects. This is the door at the school broke and it can't close and lock and somebody has to go over and do that. Or there's a leak in the pipe in the wall and they have to cut a hole in, replace the pipe and then repatch it, that type of stuff.
So the improvements we're making aren't improving our maintenance, the quality of our maintenance?
They certainly will reduce future maintenance. So for example, if we replace the roof at Melville, I would
Like
suspect
once it's done?
we would suspect not to have roof repairs at Melville for the next several years.
Thank you.
I would hope so, right? I was gonna say 10, but I didn't want anybody to laugh at me. All right, next section, please. So this is the other purchase services, Mrs. Blank, that you asked about. Really two big drivers here. One is transportation contractors, so that's our busing costs. They're directly tied to CPI, which was 7% for the year ending December 2022. And then we continue to see large increases in our statewide transportation costs, and those are the costs for students that are transported out of district using statewide transportation. That's up $354,000 combined, our contract and statewide. And then tuition to private sources, which essentially is special education out of district placements where we pay tuition, is up $132,000. So overall, that category of other purchased services is up 8.5%. Questions?
I would just point out that those transportation costs include the work of the district, rationalizing buses and reducing one bus. So that's, it would have been more. So good job on that.
Definitely appreciate your hard work across the board on this, and it helps having that confidence in you with these numbers. So not so much on this slide, but overall, we're saying a 4.4% increase. Dr. Kenworthy, can you tell me approximately what our enrollment is looking like percentage wise? Are we going up or down?
We are projected, we are on a projected enrollment increase slightly. Again, we're talking 20 or so students per year spread out by our, the projections that we use. We saw a decrease, beyond what we had been projected to be at, factored into COVID. So we're still kind of recovering from that.
Okay. Thank you.
Busing reminds me, pre-COVID, we were looking for the bus company to, or somebody to do a routing study. Has that been done?
It has been done.
Okay.
It recommended a one bus reduction and we've reduced by a bus. Yeah, we were forced to during the driver shortage to make that happen. So
Few other minor changes we were able to do with special ed transportation, that kind of thing, but it didn't yield, tremendous savings for us.
But we've kind of done we've done the efficiency
Yeah,
study
we've
and
done
there's not much
everything,
more we
right,
can
we've
do,
done
right?
everything we could do.
Unless we got rid of busing.
Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a detail behind the supplies budget. Couple items I wanted to point out. You'll see athletic supplies are up almost $28,000. And that was a request from Mr. Corey. Obviously, it's under review for the second draft, and we'll take a hard look at that. Electricity is up. While we're locked into a contract, we're still absorbing transmission cost increases, usage. That'll again be under review for the second draft. And then we have a reduction in textbooks. There was a large curriculum update in social studies, I believe, last year. And obviously, we're not repeating that, so that's a savings year over year. So relatively flat on supplies.
On electricity, that's not taking into account any new electrical expenses associated with air conditioning in the new gym.
No, it's not.
But we have hoped to possibly recover that from rental expenses.
That would be certainly one way to do it, yeah. Yep, I think we need to take a look at all of our rental fees at this point.
Question. So for the current FY 23 budget for athletic supplies, we have this school year, they got the 35,000 and now the request is for 63,000 for the next year.
That the uniform factor, Chris?
Not just uniforms, it was uniforms, it was the need for supplies, relying less on booster clubs. As I mentioned, this will certainly be under review for our second draft.
Yeah, but it's part of, as I mentioned, with the coaching positions, reviewing per team, one of the things we asked Mr. Corey to do, using his experience, was to give his, best opinion to us of where those levels should be at, be it in coaching positions, supplies, uniforms. And what we see in our district is that we count on our booster clubs to backfill a lot of that for us. So it's okay, right? If it's great that we have them, but we could technically run into Title IX violations, those kinds of things, if we're not showing that we have a consistent, revenue stream that we're providing for those things. But obviously, as Mr. Giro said, it's first draft right now, and everything will be under review.
Sure. Just as my personal suggestion, a hard look at it. I personally vote with my dollars. I don't put money towards Amazon or Walmart as much as I can. And I just want to make sure we're using the best use of our dollars.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is the end. So we run into property here and miscellaneous. Property is up 12.5%. Reduction in hardware costs. We were able to absorb capital purchases this year in FY23 without executing a lease, so we'll have some savings there. And then tech software is up 103,000. Increase in security and teaching and learning software. And again, we've already sat down and we're going to give this a very hard review as well with Mr. Costa. All in all, you can see 4.4%, $1.8 million in our first draft year-over-year increase.
I will just take us to the last slide. All right, so again, that's the first draft that we're presenting to you this evening. Thank you to everyone again for the input and hard work that they've put in to this. As we move forward through the budget process, you know, this is where I as superintendent get to come in and again just kind of focus us in on what we have to keep in mind as we move forward. So first is that we do not have a final state approved budget and a final state aid allocation, right? Everything right now is based on the governor's recommendation. So all of that has to be subject to General Assembly approval. The difficulty for us and where we sit in the budget process and timeline is that typically that is going to happen unless there's some, you know, difference in what they decide to do. Typically that happens after we've had to move through everything to the town council phase, but we will certainly keep our eye on that. As we built this and prepared everything and had things finalized for this meeting, right, the health and dental projections were still an unknown. As Mr. Dioro mentioned, he did this week get the indication that we should anticipate a 3% increase in those lines. So that will be factored in to the second draft. And then, of course, any ongoing budget discussions that we have with the town, we'll continue to factor those into our drafts as we move forward. And then lastly, and you know, this doesn't bring any of us pleasure at this stage and where we're at, but everything that we presented to you tonight and where we were able to take advantage of reducing a few positions, right, that we knew we had retirements or other things that we could do. You know, they don't have a face or a name attached to them right now. As we work our way through this budget process and have to make personnel, you know, in order to get down significantly to where we're going to have to be, that is going to require some personnel reduction. So again, it's not a fun part of this job for anyone, but it is where we're at this stage of the game. So that is it.
We'll go through 2 more cycles of this, right? And so usually, and this is for Ms. Kean, because I think this is her first round, Mr. Dioro will talk about the changes and the roll-up so that we won't go through every line forward. But if anybody has any questions, administration's ready for deeper dives if you have them.
Question, across the board with the difficulty of the timing with the budget and when we have to get our budgets due, am I correct that that's not specific to our town, that this is kind
No,
of?
it's new for everyone, right? So what the governor's put out for state aid projections, every district now has to move forward with. The hard part is that, yeah, we know the General Assembly is probably going to make changes and hopefully it doesn't affect us any more negatively, right? But typically that doesn't happen until June, right? In most years.
It doesn't happen until the last week of June.
Yeah, we'll be well through the final stages of everything with the town by then.
That's quite unfortunate.
It is.
For our state that we are not supporting the school system with properly timing, letting schools know when the budget's happening.
Yeah.
Editorial comment. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate that. I think my feeling is, and I think I probably speak for the committee here, I think it's really important that we have the district tell us what they need in full. I mean, this is a large increase. It's one of the largest I've seen, but we wouldn't be doing the town and we wouldn't be doing the kids any favors if we tried to not say what our needs are. Obviously, we may not be able to fill them all, but I think it's important going forward. Now we don't have any money in here for buying lotto tickets or anything.
But we should do that on our own,
I guess lottery tickets.
$100 for Powerball and $100
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Mega Bucks.
But we will be revisiting this 2 more times. All right, thank you very much.
Discussion on the school year 2023-24 school calendar.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous? Discuss.
Great. So one other discuss item and the center is discussed because I'm presenting it as a draft tonight. I want to certainly hear any questions that you have or input. And then we would work those in and present a final draft to you for approval of the final calendar. And at that point, we would work in other things like early release dates and end of quarter, end of trimester dates, right? But this is kind of the core of our proposed school calendar for next year. I've put this together with the input of my team here and also conferred with NEA, as we, like to do so. We're not surprising them also with anything that's going to be proposed here. So this proposed calendar would have us starting on August 28th with our district orientation day. And then moving into the start of the school year on August 29th, we would take the long weekend there for the Labor Day holiday. September 25th would be Yom Kippur. If we chose to recognize that again, we did this year for the first time. And so if we did that again, that's when that date would fall. Rosh Hashanah, which is the other high holy Jewish holiday that districts would choose to recognize. This year falls on a weekend in everything that I have seen, but I will certainly stand corrected if anybody has any other information. So all of the other holidays and observances are built in there. Veterans Day this year is on a Saturday, right? So it's being recognized statewide on Monday, the 13th. We have typically built in this district in particular, I know our military population likes the extra day for the Thanksgiving break, so I included that. I started the holiday break on December 22nd, just so you know, because that will help us accommodate the Christmas Eve holiday better for full year employees. So one way or another, we have to give them that day off because Christmas Eve is falling on the weekend. Christmas Day is obviously there on the Monday, which we would continue with the break, New Year's Day on Monday, and then we would return on January 2nd. February February break date is set. Good Friday is there. If we choose to recognize it, that would be the date. And April, I want to point out a couple of things in April. So that's when it is. That's when it is next year. We have been waiting to see whether RIDE was going to put out a statewide calendar. Districts have been asking. They had not. So everybody that I know of has moved forward with this process. I've checked in with every district in our surrounding area. We are all right now there where we are either presenting or approving the calendar for next year. And we all took that week of April 15th for April break. Now that coincides with Patriots Day in Massachusetts, and when Massachusetts typically will take their April break. We've done that for years in Rhode Island. For whatever reason, when RIDE started putting out the statewide calendar with COVID, now it comes out as a suggestion, so we don't have to technically follow anything in the RIDE calendar. But they did not even put their calendar out until the beginning of this week. And when they did, they are, again, I don't know what reasoning they're using, but they're selecting another April break date week. And that's been typical the last few years. So I just want you to know that if you see the RIDE adjusted calendar and that is the only difference in this calendar that I saw. And the reason for that would be because that week of April 15th would typically be when we've always traditionally taken the April break in Rhode
Is
Island.
the
Yep.
ride calendar making it April, the week of April 1st? I'm just
Nope.
making an assumption based. on-
Nope, it's not even that, where they're trying to piggyback on Good Friday and Easter. The ride calendar has April break the week of April 8th. So that, again, I don't know what the reasoning there would be, but.
Their infinite wisdom.
Yes, but in any event, this is the calendar that would align us better with surrounding districts. And then that April 23rd date may stand out to you. We talked about building in a reduction of 2 professional development days, right? So that would leave us with 1. Reason I chose that date is because that is the Rhode Island statewide presidential primary date next year. And we've already been informed if you have schools that are polling locations, we won't be able to hold school that day. In those schools, we have a couple. It's just going to be easier to do it on that day. That takes us through May. The tentative graduation date and tentative end date for the school year would be June 14th there. And then that would build us some flexibility to have some traditional snow days, which we said we were going to do this year. So far, we haven't had to. But that would give us the flexibility to be back to that. So any other questions or any feedback that you want me to incorporate as we're finalizing this calendar?
You answered the one, I'm sorry, you answered the one question I had about the 23rd. I was going to say, like, every parent in the district is going to want to strangle you that day.
I know, but we wouldn't be able to hold school
but
anyway that day.
Yeah,
so.
I forgot the presidential primary date was moved around this year. And the only thing, oh, no, it's been fixed. I was going to say the original one that we had in our backup had the 19th.
Yeah, we caught
I was
that
gonna
at the
say, you're
last
gonna-
minute.
And I think the only thing, just it's a wording issue, was January 1st is not an observance day because it is the actual day.
Okay.
Unlike Veterans Day.
Yep. Got it.
I think.
Ms. Gian?
I was just gonna suggest, if possible, renaming Columbus Day Indigenous Peoples' Day. I don't know if the state has done that, but
Yeah, if that's the pleasure of the committee, I haven't checked for this year, right? But I have checked that in years past and up through last year, the state was still using Columbus Day. So we wanted to, but if it's the pleasure of the committee that you'd like me to do that or to just double check with what the state's using, just.
I think we should double check because I think, I mean, or maybe do a slash so that it doesn't confuse people.
Okay.
Question, has there ever been an analysis or do any of the towns in Rhode Island, instead of doing February and April, do just a March week off?
Yeah, that has certainly been discussed quite a bit. Prior to COVID, there were a few districts that had experimented with that. That I do know. Then with COVID, we went to for a couple of years, we had a statewide calendar. Everyone was asked to follow. Now, again, it's been suggested. And as far as I know, people have nobody's doing that March break thing. And everybody's just gravitated back towards the February or April break if they typically observe. February, some districts choose to have a long weekend around the President's Day holiday. But we had traditionally always had the February break again. It's another thing that I think our military families particularly like. So we went back to it.
Actually, when we had a survey on that, and it was the elementary schools that were like, we need the February break because everybody gets sick and that gives us a chance to clean out the schools and get people home.
And I will say, as someone that has family that lives in Bristol Warren, who I think is the closest district that had it. The March break actually becomes a scheduling nightmare because activities and everything are scheduled around the February, April break setup versus just the March setup.
And when that survey, it wasn't even close. I mean, I think most of the teachers wanted to maintain the February break, plus the winter holiday, the thing that's conducted in Newport, the Winter Festival is during that week as well. So it's been discussed, but it's been rejected.
One
the
other
19th,
suggestion that
right?
I have.
Yeah, we can make sure it's listed. President's Day.
What?
Ms. Deere is just pointing out, technically, President's Day is a holiday for year-round staff, so we should probably just It's
listed as
incorporated
first.
into February break, but we should spell that out.
Yeah. Sandra?
Could we consider having April vacation be the week of the 22nd? And then have the professional development day the 12th? Or
We-
something like that?
We-
If we have to,
we could do anything if you so desired. Couple of things there. Now we'd be even more, a little more of an outlier, right? Because again, most districts that I'm aware of are taking that week of the 15th. The RIDE calendar now has just thrown another wrench into it because they went a week earlier. So then we would, in that scenario, be a week later than.
We
so-
try to, we
so
try to
better
come.
so better deals when we take the kids on vacation.
Well, I was just gonna say, we also have the problem of teachers who live in other districts with kids and staff. And so that makes childcare really hard, so.
Is it?
So if,
Right, but
if they
there's-
lived in, say,
I hear,
Yeah.
yeah, I hear you, the covering teachers who live in a different district, but they work in our district. But I feel that, and though I don't have facts, that there's more just people working not in a district, not in the school system, with kids in the school system.
true, but then, I mean, we can do whatever. I tend to think it makes sense to kind of make it
Oh, yeah.
overlap with other districts, because then we're not paying substitutes, we're not, you know.
Yeah, Dr. Vera
Yeah.
just reminded me of another thing, and this doesn't have to be the driver of anything here, but as the more we are out of alignment with other districts, we, for CTE programs, right, where we have to provide busing and all of that, or them to us, it just creates those additional challenges.
Do you think other towns are then going to the April 8th?
Nobody that I've talked to, yeah, everyone is kind of where we are. Listen, we were asking, they didn't, put it out until this week. Everyone's that I know of is sticking with that April 15th break. But again, we have time before I bring this back to you, so I will do one more check on that.
And check with the neighboring districts.
Yes, yeah, most
Yeah.
importantly, our neighboring
Yeah,
districts.
this is like the once every 4-year outlier where Good Friday falls early this year. Not listed in the calendar. So in most of the years, it's almost like a non-issue. Good Friday through the subsequent week.
Yep.
And then, for the future drafts, the early release dates that we do, I'll be your best friend if you make those Fridays.
Have been
I
talking about
can't
that.
imagine anyone would hate.
Okay, well, that's good feedback because
Yeah,
I knew that
that
people
was-
talking about that.
Forbid, we're outside of what other towns are doing. But I don't.
That would be
Well,
very
those aren't as
fun.
much of a factor because that's, those are school days, whatever, it's just for us. So yeah, but
Yeah,
we
but-
had been talking about that.
The April 23rd, professional development, is that timely that it needs to be in April?
Not necessarily, except we wouldn't be able to hold school on that day. And one day, then if we
that's
move the professional day to another day, we'd be extending the school year by one more day, just which we can do, but I was trying to wrap it up as soon as we could there.
Okay, I know you'll bring this back to us for more consideration. Can I have a motion for business item D, please?
Moving for discussion and action on the submission of emergency capital safety request up to $200,000 to be submitted to the Rhode Island Department of Education.
Second.
We have to vote on this. All in favor for discussion? Go.
All right, so on to some action items. So first one up is,
Just in the action. Sorry, we didn't vote on that. We just.
oh, do you want it? Are you voting or?
No, we're not voting. We're not voting. Go ahead. We're discussing. Go
All
ahead,
right,
discuss
okay.
away.
So you're pointing at something. Okay. All right, so this is, we've referenced it a few times. I will just quickly refresh and recap for everyone. Last spring, and unfortunately it was after the events in Uvalde, the state asked each district to do a comprehensive review of their schools with the police department, which we did. And we have put a lot of, good, changes and upgrades into safety and security in our district. But of course, there are always things that we can improve on to do. So we came up with a list of items, from that spring review. And then we started at the beginning of this school year working our way through our safety committee discussions. And then we did bring this through capital for discussion at the last meeting that we had. So where we've landed is on this $200,000 request. You have the backup of all of these items and how it breaks down. Right, we would be submitting this to RIDE. This would be, we do get up to 1 time per year. So that's what RIDE was encouraging districts to take advantage of, right? Where we can ask for an emergency request approval, which would get the reimbursement rate. So that would be the 40% reimbursement rate, which would then go back to the town. So at least we would be taking advantage of something, but that is, everything that you have the backup for there related to this item. That's where it brings us.
And this was approved by the capital subcommittee.
So we discussed, and yes.
Okay.
And safety as well.
Yep. My only question is walkie-talkies. Do we get all those taken care
So
of?
we did the high school. That was already done. You granted that emergency request earlier this year. They are loving them on the administrative team. It's made a huge difference. So we're assessing to see if other schools can take advantage of that in future years. It's not part of this request. These requests were already in motion before
Okay.
that.
For approval of the $200,000 for emergency health and safety request to RIDE.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous 7-0. May I have a motion for business E, please?
Discussion and action on the execution of RIDE School Building Authority 21st Century Technology and Furniture Capital Agreement to be spent by June 30th, 2023.
Second.
All right.
All right, so last one for me for a while, and then I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Diorel for the next few items, so he can start preparing himself. So on this one, I'm bringing this before you this evening for a vote, because I am going to ask you to sign this. We're already, as you'll hear more about, we have a June 30th deadline here that we're trying to meet. So from what I've been able to gather, last May, and it was maybe part of the finalization of the statewide budget, they set aside this 21st Century Technology and Furniture Capital Fund. So throughout the summer and fall, everything that I had seen on it, it went to other districts, right, that met certain qualifications, and we weren't on the list. When we came back from the new year, we received notification that they then decided, I don't know if they didn't spend all the money that they anticipated, but they were going to then give every other district that didn't get that original allocation some of this money. So some great news for us here. Assuming your approval, and then when we sign this, we'll submit it. We are eligible to use, we will get $160,661 here. We have to use that money by June 30th, though, so we want to be able to get this process moving. We can do it.
Do it.
And then just, our plan would be to take and capitalize here, take as much advantage as we can on things that we've identified for next year's budget process that you may have seen in that first draft, right? And we'll purchase and have a strategy there to get that number down a little
How
bit.
quickly can we vote? Any questions? All in favor?
I do have a question.
Okay.
Is this coming out of the clear blue? I mean, did I miss a meeting?
7-0 approved.
Thank you.
Did I miss a meeting?
No. Again, until we came back from the new year, everything I had seen on this, again, there was a list, we weren't on the list. Okay, yep, I was, but then.
It's good.
They're giving us money. So
Okay.
We're going to take it.
Can I have a motion, please, for business F?
I move for discussion and action on the use of capital funds for Portsmouth High School septic pump replacement, up to $45,000.
Second.
Mr. Duro, have you prepared yourself?
I got it. Just get to it. I got it. I'm prepared. God, we're all losing it, so. This went through the capital subcommittee, and basically, long story short, there are 2 pumps at the high school that grind and pump waste into the septic system.
They appear to be original pumps to the septic system. One of them, stopped working. We sent it out to see if it could be repaired. It cannot be repaired. It's that
Oh, wow.
damaged. We're using one, and we would like to, on an emergency basis, replace both of those quickly so that we do not have a disaster on our hands.
Yes, I don't think there's gonna be any questions or decisions about that. Any? All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous 7-0.
Thank you.
Oh, good. I
Right.
thought I knew that actually. Okay. Can I have a
So-
motion for business G, please?
I move for discussion and action on fiscal year 23 budget transfers over 5,000.
Second.
Mr. Duro.
Yes, so there's only two. The first one is a transfer of $5,125 from tuitions to private sources to purchased psychologist services. That's because we're down an open position. And then the second one is a transfer from officials, referees to stipends, athletic event officials, personnel, and that's just because the costs of ticket takers and shot clock people was budgeted as an expenditure when it really would go through salaries. So it's just a reclass.
All right. All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous 7-0. May I have a motion
Move.
for H, please?
For discussion and action. Halfway HVAC project submission to the Rhode Island Department of Education, School Building Authority for design development review.
Second.
This went through the committee and was approved by the subcommittee, district building committee. Mr. Duro.
Yes, it was earlier today. So this is the final review. We're asking for your permission to submit for design development review. You've already approved schematic. I'm sorry, this is the second design development. You've already approved schematic. And then we will come back one more time for construction document review.
Seeing no questions, all in favor? Unanimous 7-0. May I have a motion for I, please?
Move for discussion and action for the Melville HVAC project submission to the Rhode Island Department of Education, School Building Authority for the design development review.
Second.
Mr. Duro.
Yep, exactly the same request, only this is Melville. You just approved Hathaway.
I move for approval.
Second.
We got to do it all at once. Sorry. All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous 7-0. Can I have a motion, please, for business J?
I move for discussion and action on the bid award for partial roof replacement of the Melville project.
Second.
This has a little bit more that they should know about.
Want me to give? the
Yeah.
list? Yeah, so this went through the building committee today and was approved. The Melville roof project as part of our school bond went out to bid. We had three bids come in. We structured the bid in such a way that there was a base bid, which was about 75% of the roof, and then we had two alternates, 1 and 2. Just worrying about costs and CPI increases and inflation. And so when the bids came back, the low bid on the base was below budget. And so we're recommending that we just approve or that we award a contract just for the base bid of $1,146,500 to Capeway Roofing Systems, Inc., and that's under budget by $192,000.
And they've worked with the district before, and the district's been very pleased with all their work.
They have done every roofing project while I've been here. They've won every bid.
Yeah,
they've done a
however,
nice job.
there's two small components of Melville which are not being done yet, but they'll be put in at a later date. So while it looks great, that's still maybe closer to 0 under budget by the time they do the other stuff.
Could be, yeah.
All in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous 7-0. Can I have a motion, please, for K?
I move for discussion and action on the bid award for the high school field house HVAC project.
Second.
Another bonded project that went out to bid. We had a single bidder on that project, which was a little surprising. Having reviewed the one proposal with our OPM and our architect, we're recommending that you award the contract for the PHS Fieldhouse HVAC renovations to Marin Construction in the amount of $1,488,000. That cost is $287,000 over our budget. What we're proposing is that when we go out to bid for the PHS bathroom renovations, there are two bathroom sets of the two bathrooms in that project. We have a base bid of one and an alternate of another, and see if we can fit both of those in, and if not, we would make an adjustment. We'd probably just award the base bid. And we have time, we have many other projects, and our goal would not to be abandon the high school bathroom project, but to get to it at a later date.
So does everybody understand what was just said there? So I will be voting yes, but I am voting yes with reservations on this project. They've convinced me it's kind of the right timing to do in terms of all the technical folks. There was only one bidder, but it's over budget, but that's also with all the cost increases and everything else.
Yeah, and I think another point is, again, if I wasn't so connected to all this, that I wouldn't quite understand as well, is when this is all structured, once the bond is approved, we can't move money. Like, let's say we end up having savings at another school, we can't move that money to another set of school projects until the very end. We get one time to do that. We still have a number of projects. We just don't know where we're gonna be with some of those other projects.
Right, so, and then the other thing is the way they structured the bond payment, they need to approve we need to get projects underway so that we can get the housing reimbursement in, which is also then helping to pay off the bond, right? So that's an important reason to do it. What scares me about this is that it now says a PHS bathroom is listed as an alternate. And to me, it was very important to do the bathrooms. And if we were starting from scratch, I'd say we should do the bathrooms first and then see what we have left over. That's not how the timing works. But I think what was very encouraging was hearing the alternate ways to make sure that we get the bathroom projects done. But you need to know that's kind of what this is saying here.
Right, and just to reiterate, the priority is the bathrooms. But the timing of this, if we didn't vote today, would cause the construction to be a year, another summer later.
Which would make it like with cost increases and engineering increases and a whole other slew of problems. So it's not ideal, but I think the experts are saying this is the best.
And we will work very hard to make sure we can get that second bathroom done. We still have the Memorial Drive project to bid out. If there's savings there, that's another high school project that we can offset.
So
We have reason to believe there'll be savings there.
Right now, the projection is more than our budget, but some of these cost, members of the committee that saw some of the cost estimates that were coming in, they're wildly changing from like month to month, depending on who you ask. I don't think anybody knows what's really happening out there in the market
Till
on
you
a
get a
consistent
bid.
basis.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Too close to like when this work has to be done to go out to bid again, just to see it like with another opening, if another bid came in.
If we went out to bid with this again, we wouldn't be able to do this till next year.
And they have managed, again, kudos to Mr. Giro and the team. They've managed to get everything lined up with Rhode Island Energy. And so that it seems like, knock wood, things should flow smoothly.
Yeah, one of the big problems with there's like a 20 to 25 week lead time just to buy the equipment. So if we delayed this bid by another month, we wouldn't get the equipment in until winter time. So, which we could not install it at that point.
So, all in favor? Hesitantly raising my hand, yes. Any opposed? No, I mean, it's a great project. I'm just worried about the bathrooms, so. But,
Yep,
all right,
absolutely.
unanimous 7-0, yay. Ms. McD, can I have a motion for L, please?
Can I have a motion for discussion and action on policy JICFA, the anti-hazing policy?
Second.
This is our final read.
Oh, sorry. Second.
That's all right.
Any changes?
Not since last time.
All right. I noticed in this anti-hazing policy, it doesn't have any penalties listed, and we were talking about penalties for behavior. Is that something that was considered?
Yes, but most of the policies leave a lot of the penalties and that, those kinds of decisions up to the administration.
I think
of
there's
various
enough
schools.
for us to link back
So
to like
it's-
student codes of conduct and
Yeah.
and handbooks and things like that and
Okay,
situational.
all in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous, 7-0. Can I have a motion for M, please, Ms. McDade?
Can I have a motion for I move for discussion and action on policy ADA, the civility policy.
Second.
Again, it's the final read and there have been no changes since last time.
How could you vote against civility? All right, all in favor? But unanimous, 7-0. And now we don't vote on this. We receive the reports. Mr. Duro, can I have a report on budget transfers under 5,000?
Yep, so there are a number of them, as you can see.
Yep.
Again, I won't, they're all fairly small. If there's any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. But in total, page 5. Transferring $33,884.16 between accounts.
Yep. So again, we're not required to vote on this, but we do appreciate the transparency. Thank you very much. And January financials, please.
Yep, so I think I mentioned it at our last meeting, I'm a little concerned about our revenue projections. I continue to look at that. I'm working through a complete forecast now. I hope to have that by the end of school break. And certainly we have enough time to react to anything that I find.
Yep.
Are there any questions on any specific accounts?
Nope, seeing no questions. Upcoming meeting is February 28th. That'll be a regular school committee meeting, and that should be here in the chambers, correct? All right, may I have a motion for adjournment, please?
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. We are now actually, we needed a motion to
Resend that.
rescind that motion to adjournment, and we are, what do we call it?
We are returning to executive session.
We are returning to executive session. We will adjourn after that.
Now we have to take a vote.
Motion to.
Motion to return to executive.
All in favor? Any opposed? 7-0. Actually, I'm kind of opposed, but